Hello everyone, Leo here, and today we are just outside Pikeville, Kentucky at the Annie E. Young Cemetery, and we are revisiting a story that we did here a while back about this man right here, Anderson Adkins. Him right there. November 3rd, 1911 to March 15th, 1946. Just rest in peace down below.
In the hills of Pike County, Kentucky, where quiet roads wind between coal towns and tight-knit communities, one of the most shocking crime sprees in state history began with a custody dispute and ended in the electric chair. This is the true story of John Anderson Adkins. Anderson Adkins was born on November 13, 1911 in Pike County, Kentucky to Hayes Hasey Adkins and Martha Justice Adkins. Not much is known about his early life, but in 1933 he married Elmo Bentley, and the two had a son named Jimmy Donald Adkins. They lived in the Marrowbone community, not far from other family members. In 1942, like many looking for work during wartime, Anderson moved with his family to Baltimore, Maryland, where he found work at a shipbuilding plant. But by the end of 1943 or early 1944, they had returned to Kentucky. That return marked the beginning of the end. Soon after, marital problems took hold. In April 1944, Elmo filed for divorce and left Kentucky to work in a defense plant in Fairfield, Ohio. Their son, Jimmy, was left in the care of her parents, Alexander Fayette Bentley and Belle Coleman Bentley. Eventually, the divorce was granted. Elmo received full custody of Jimmy, but Anderson was allowed weekly visits. He would pick up Jimmy on the weekends, spend the day with him, and return him on Sunday. Then came February 10, 1945. On that day, Anderson arrived at the Bentley home to pick up Jimmy, but for reasons not made clear, the family refused to let him take the boy. The next day, he drove to a local gas station run by Orban and Verna Bentley Long, Verna being Elmo's sister. He bought some gas and while there tried to convince Verna to write to Elmo on his behalf, asking her to return custody of Jimmy to him. She told Anderson, "I will write her no letter, and if I can do anything to prevent it, you won't be seeing Jimmy or Elmo either again." That's when things took a deadly turn. Anderson later claimed that from that moment on, his memory went blank. But the evidence tells a clearer story. Verna was standing beside his car when he pulled a gun and shot her. She tried to run, but Anderson got out and kept firing. Earl and Mrs. Johnson, passing by in a truck, witnessed the shooting. They saw Anderson walk up to Verna's fallen body and strike her with his gun. He then reloaded, got in his car, and drove away. He made it to the home of Bill Goff, where he asked for Goff, though Goff was actually hiding inside. Adkins reportedly said, "I hope I meet him. I'll get him, and I'll get old Fayette," meaning Fayette Bentley, Elmo's father. He confessed to Mrs. Goff that he had just killed Verna Long. Goff had once been targeted by Adkins weeks earlier, and Adkins blamed him for his separation from Elmo. From there, he returned toward the gas station, speeding. "You lost control and crashed into a ditch across from the station." Tom and Mrs. Johnson, along with their son-in-law, Ed Burgess, had come outside after hearing the earlier shooting. As Mrs. Johnson neared her front steps, Adkins ran up to her. She pleaded, "Anderson, I have never harmed you. What are you coming up here for?" His reply, "Oh, yes, you have. I've come to get you." Then he fired. 3 bullets struck her, in the breast, back, and near her right eye. She died instantly. Shortly after, attorney A.E. Oxier and his wife drove past. They saw Mrs. Johnson's body in the road and noticed Adkins standing across from a wrecked car reloading his gun. He approached them and said, "I have to have this car." The couple stepped out and Adkins drove away. Adkins' spree continued. He drove to the home of Burton and Thelma Bentley, where only Thelma and her baby were home. Burton, Elmo's brother, was gone. Adkins said, I'll let him do a little suffering. He is not here. Then he shot Thelma in the chest. She ran to her baby and he shot her again in the arm, then a third time in the head. He kicked her 3 times and left. Thelma survived, but she was left totally blind. Still not done, Adkins went to the home of Clarence and Mella Bentley Blackburn. Mella was Elmo's sister. Anderson walked into the dining room and told Mella and her mother, "I've come after you and your mother both. What have you to say?" He pointed the gun at Mella, but Clarence Blackburn tried to stop him. Adkins shot Clarence in the chest twice. Clarence managed to wrestle the gun away, throw it into a nearby creek, then collapsed and died within 30 minutes. Adkins left the home. On the road, he came across a stalled truck. The driver, Shannon Sawyers, recalled Adkins helping push the truck, saying, "For mercy's sake, unblock me, I'm in a hurry." Eventually, Adkins flagged down a truck driven by Scott Blackburn and his wife. He asked to be taken to Hayes Justice's store, where he had a short talk with his cousin. Then he walked up the mountain toward the Virginia state line. State troopers Tony Robinette and T.S. Salisbury tracked him down. When they caught up, Adkins tried to flee. Robinette fired a few warning shots, and Adkins surrendered. He told the officers he had killed 4 or 5 people and begged them to shoot him and leave him in the mountains. On February 12, 1945, the Pike County Grand Jury reconvened and indicted Adkins on 3 counts of murder, 2 counts of malicious shooting, and armed robbery for stealing the Auxier's car. He pled not guilty. At trial, his attorney said Anderson had snapped, suffering a breakdown due to his failed marriage and the custody battle. Adkins cried on the stand as he spoke of losing Elmo and his son Jimmy. He said he blamed the Bentley family. For the murder of Verna Long, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. But that was just the beginning. In May 1945, he stood trial for the murder of Mrs. Johnson. He claimed a head injury in Baltimore had affected his mind. The jury didn't buy it. After less than 2 hours, they found him guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to death. He never stood trial for the other attacks. The Court of Appeals affirmed his death sentence in November 1945, and Governor Simeon Willis declined clemency. The execution was scheduled for March 15, 1946. That morning, Warden Gug Tuggle oversaw Anderson Adkins' execution by electric chair at Eddyville Penitentiary. He was 34 years old. Adkins was buried in Annie E. Young Cemetery in Pikeville, Kentucky. His ex-wife Elmo later remarried and died in 1994. She is buried in Marietta, Georgia. Their son, Jimmy Donald Adkins, lived a full life. He served in the Air Force, worked at Lockheed as an electronics technician, and passed away in 2018. He is also buried in Marietta, Georgia, beside his wife.
Anderson Adkins was a story that we did a while ago when we were kind of new to YouTube. After the story was posted, some of the victims, well, his wife's family, I guess, Anderson's wife's family, including the son of one of the victims named Verna, responded to our video. They were glad the story was told, but as her son Richard recalled that day, it really brought it home to us in a whole different way. It did make us feel good to see the responses, the positive responses from family members who saw our video and contacted us. Verna Long was my grandmother. I never got to meet her. Thelma Bentley, the woman who was left permanently blind, was my great aunt, and I did know her while I was growing up. She was so kind and could do almost anything regardless of her lack of vision. Her vision was because of Anderson's bullet, one of Anderson's bullets. But it brings up many feelings to hear this tragic story told outside of the family. This event impacted generations. Thank you for bringing it to light after all these years. And then it broke our hearts to read Verna's son's message on our video, Robert Long. Verna Long was holding my hand at 8 years old when drunk Anderson shot her 4 times. As she started to run away after pumping gas for him, I will never forget his chilling words and deliberate attempts to kill the entire Bentley family. On that day, he did not ask Verna to reconcile the family, as he lied during his trial. Beside him on the passenger seat was a whiskey bottle. He said, "Verna, you love your children, don't you?" She replied, "Yes, Anderson, I do." Anderson said, "Well, Verna, I loved mine too." He reached to the floor beside his right foot, pulled out a pistol, and fired 5 shots. Verna shoved me to the front of the car and ran to the back. After shooting Mommy, he drug off to the west to find Bill Goff, but Mrs. Goff told him that Bill was out. As Ervil and I were pulling Mommy off the highway, Anderson returned and began firing shots at us and crashed his car. The story from there was close to what was recited. I witnessed Mrs. Johnson's death and heard that conversation. She said, "Anderson, I have never done anything to hurt you." He said, "Yes, you have," and fired. We watched her tumble down the hill. Anderson stole the car and sped toward Harless Creek to see the Bentleys. He verbally and physically abused his wife Elmo Bentley and son Jimmy, who related his fear of his drunken father. Anderson robbed us of our family unity. And as a further travesty, Brother Wayne Long and wife Ethel are also buried here in the Annie E. Young Cemetery. Apparently, the Annie E. Young Cemetery didn't even know that he was here until we did our original story. Apparently, when they bought the cemetery, there was an issue with some of the paperwork, and a lot of the stuff got lost. And basically, they didn't know that this man was even here until we did our story and went down to the office, down the bottom of the hill, and told them, hey, yeah, he's here. He's here. And there he is, right there, right in the center of your screen. Anyway, guys, thank y'all for coming along. Hope you enjoyed today with us and our little story. Y'all have a good day. Leo out.